to you today for the week 3 scrapbooking challenge in July. This is my first time going live on YouTube. I'm mixing things up a little bit, and instead of going live in my Facebook group, I'm going to be going live in my YouTube. The setup is a little different to what I'm used to, so just bear with me while I get my phone into my device holder. Fantastic. Okay, so let's get stuck into it. For those of you that are new here, I go live every week on a Tuesday for Technique Tuesday, and I share a double page scrapbooking pattern with you that you can create using your own scrapbooking stash that you have at home or your favorite Stampin' Up! Product. So this week I have turned a single page layout into a double page layout. And in fact, this layout we created last Saturday. I hold a team demonstrator day on a regular basis. I do a few of those a year, about 5 a year. And we create a double page layout at our demo days and 2 cards. And these were the projects that we created. So I'm sharing not only a scrapbooking layout with you today, but also 2 cards. So let's start with the pattern. Oh, I'm a week ahead already with my patterns, so I need to go back to the pattern that I'm sharing with all today. So we are working with a front and center photo focus pattern. This is on page 79 of the Reflection Scrapbook program. This is an older how-to pattern book that I had on my shelf. If you don't have a copy, you can purchase it from Amazon. This is on page 79. It's pattern 5L or 5I, but we are going back to basics. You can see this is a very basic 12 by 12 inch scrapbooking pattern, and one that I'm super excited to share with you. So let's get into your paper dimensions. Now I have used 2 sheets of white willow cardstock as my cardstock base. Now the paper dimensions will have you cutting your paper a little bit differently, but I want to show you a trick today in terms of saving your paper. So if you were to look at this pattern here of designer series paper, you would think that this is actually the base of the pattern. So you can do that if you've got lots of paper you want to use up. You can use 2 sheets of designer series paper or cardstock. But I like to save my paper or show my scrapbooking community how they can get best use out of their paper. So instead of having that as my base, I've got white willow cardstock as my base. And these 2 pieces here, I've cut them at 2.5 inches wide by 12 inches across, okay? So to mirror image that pattern, you'll just need 1 sheet of designer series paper, and you're going to cut these 4 pieces in 12-inch strips measuring 2.5 inch wide. Now this larger sheet of designer series paper through the middle, you'll only need 1 sheet of designer series paper for that, and you're going to cut that straight in the middle at 6 inches, and you'll have a piece you can put on your left hand side and then a piece you can put on your right hand side. And then this fresh freesia cardstock, the paper dimension instructions say to cut that at 7 inches, but then you're going to cover this 6-inch piece over the top. So instead of cutting my paper at 7 inches, I've actually cut 1/2-inch strips of cardstock, okay? And you'll need 4 of those. So when it comes to assembling the layout, you're going to start with this 2.5-inch strip flush at the bottom. Then you're going to stick this 1/2-inch strip down, then this 6-inch piece in the middle, another 1/2-inch strip here, and then a 2.5-inch strip here, okay? And this is a very basic 12 by 12 inch pattern. Now, in terms of your photo mats, I have cut all of my photo mats using white willow cardstock, and I have cut them at 4.25 inches by 6.25 inches. You will need 2 sheets of white willow cardstock, and if you cut these 3 photo mats, cut your cardstock at 6.25 inch first, and then you can get 2 mats at 4.25, and then with the remaining strip you can cut that at 4.25 first and then at 6.25, and you'll need 2 sheets of white willow cardstock to get 6 photo mats for a double page scrapbook layout. Now you can see here that I have got a flip flap on top of my memory protector, and this is actually the technique that I am going to be teaching you today. I didn't have the correct orientation of photos, so you can see I've got 2 portrait photos here. And then this was designed for 4 landscape photos. Most of my photos I take are portrait because I just kind of like point and shoot using my iPhone. And so what I've done here is I've cut my photos into 3 by 4 inches, and then you can fit 2 3 by 4 inch portrait photos on a 4 by 6 or 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 inch mat. Okay, so that's just a little tip there for you. And so I've used this photo mat as my sort of title box. I'm going to be demonstrating this to you today. I've cut out some letters here to spell the word Plaka, which is a neighborhood in Athens. It could be Plaka. I'm not sure about the pronunciation there, right? If someone knows, drop me a comment below. But I have actually done this technique first, where we have used a die and a blending brush and some ink to create my journal box. And I've done a little bit of stamping on the other side here just to add some extra color and embellishment to that. So I've used this one as my title, and then I've got a flip flop over the top. I've actually got another photo that I've printed that I need to pick up that I'm going to put in my flip flap. And then this is my journal box, which I have got on the inside of my flip flap. So this is stuck on top of my memory protector. So we're going to see my photo first. We're going to flip that open, my journaling box, and then the title. Now, you can change the order of that if you'd prefer to have the title on the front and then a photo and a journaling box underneath here. You can certainly do that. But this was cut out 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. So I had a little bit more room to create my title on this with my letters off center that I would have because this is just 4 by 6 inches with the flip flap. But let's get into the technique today, which I'm sharing. So I'll take this one out of the flip flap so we can have a closer look at that. The products I'm sharing with you today are actually from the July online exclusives. So every 2 months on odd numbered months, so July being month 7 of the year, every 2 months on odd numbered months, Stampin' Up! Release an online exclusive products list. Now, you can only see these products online, but Stampin' Up! Do release a PDF, which you can see here. I have printed in colour and laminated. I like to have this on hand at my in-person events so my customers can flick through it. And inside these July online exclusives are a number of products that you won't find in the printed copy of your existing May to August catalogue. So we've got a Halloween suite that came out, and then we've got this suite here which is called Violet Dreams, and they're the products that I'm sharing with you today. Now typically I will feature the same suite throughout an entire calendar month. I will create the scrapbooking workshop kit that coordinates with that suite. And then I use my leftovers and purchase individual scrapbooking products to create my weekly challenges for the month. So this is something a little bit different that I'm doing by sharing the Violet Dreams Suite collection with you. Because I am working on the Life in Bloom and the Valley in Bloom suite collection for July. But because I had a team demonstrator day on Saturday, we played with some new products for July, and that's why I have got this to share with you today. So you can purchase the suite in its entirety, or you can purchase your items individually. So I'm sharing with you today the Violet Dreams Specialty Designer Series paper. And the reason why it's a specialty designer series paper, we've actually used all the designer series paper that was in this pack, but this actually comes with 2 sheets of die cuts. Okay, so you can punch these out and you can use them on your scrapbooking or your card making projects. Now, I've been teaching scrapbooking for 24 years. And the majority of my scrapbooking community don't do a lot of stamping. So I was with 2 other companies before I transitioned over to Stampin' Up! 2 years ago. And so obviously stamps are a huge part of Stampin' Up!, which I love. And sometimes I incorporate stamping into my scrapbooking projects and sometimes I don't. And the majority of my customers, they do love stamping, but the majority of them don't actually stamp on their scrapbooking layouts. And so for those of you that are not fans of scrapbooking, stamping on your scrapbooking layouts, this Specialty Designer Series paper would be great for you because your embellishments are die cuts that you can just punch out and you can put on your layout without having to include any stamping. And that is a great way to embellish your products. Your projects, embellish your projects. Now, there is also a coordinating bundle with this sweet collection. So you have got both the stamp set and the dies. So these are the framed violet dies and these are the framed violets stamp set. So they coordinate to work together. I'm going to be demonstrating those to you today. There are some cute embellishments called the adhesive backed blooms, which I also invested in. I did invest in the Shimmering Stripes specialty paper, but I haven't used that yet. And then there's also the Fresh Freesia satin ribbon. I have actually just used some plain white ribbon on my cards that I'm going to be sharing with you today. So they are some of the products that I am going to be sharing with you today. One of the things that I like to do is also show coordinating cardstock colors that go with a suite collection. You can't purchase this as a coordinating cardstock pack, unfortunately. So I like to purchase my colors individually as 12 packs and then have them here on hand for my scrapbookers to use at events. When you purchase a packet of the Designer Series paper, it does come with a product card inside. I actually cut that down and stick that on the front of my bag, and on front of the product card it will actually tell you what the coordinating colors are that make up this particular suite collection. So we have got Secret Sea Hydrangea Hue, Gorgeous Grape, which is also my coordinating nail color for the month, ladies, Fresh Freesia, Darling Duckling, and Peaceful Pine. Now, all these cardstocks are two-tone, okay? So you can purchase them in a 12-pack. I would love it if Stampin' Up! Did a coordinating pack of cardstock that we can purchase at the same time, because you really do need cardstock at the same time that you are scrapbooking and also making your gorgeous cards. So we have run through the paper dimensions, we have run through the assembly. Oh, in terms of the photo mats, I've really just eyeballed these. So I started with my 2 landscape photo mats. So the middle of these here is at 6 inches and I've left about a 1/4 of an inch gap. I'm about 1/2 an inch from the outside. I typically just eyeball where my photo mat placements go. And then you've got your 2 portrait photos here. Again, I've lifted that about a 1/4 of an inch over the top of this strip of paper, and I've left 1/2 an inch between that photo and the inside of my scrapbook layout. I've got a little little embellishment cluster here using the die cuts that came in the Violet Dreams Specialty Designer Series paper. I've punched out one of the dies, written the date on here, and then I've used some Fresh Freesia cardstock. I have cut out my letters using the Party Alphabet dies. I love these dies. If you're a scrapbooker, you need to add these dies to your wish list because you will use them again and again and again. They are great for creating really big titles. You might notice that there's some embossing over the top of my letters here. I actually embossed the letters using the Floral Spray 3D embossing folder. Now, this 3D embossing folder is not part of the suite collection that I'm sharing with you today. It's actually part of a suite collection from Valley in Bloom. So I did buy that as a separate purchase. Whenever there are 3D embossing folders that come out in this larger size, so this size embossing folder is 6 by 8.5. I always buy the large embossing folders because these are perfect size for scrapbooking. Larger size embossing folders, you can run that through your Stampin' Cut and emboss. And in fact, I actually have got some samples here of this. I'm not demonstrating this today as such, but next week, for next week's challenge, I have used this on my layout. So I actually ran some fresh freesia cardstock through my Stamp and Cut and Emboss using this 3D embossing folder, and then I've cut the letters out from here for my title just to add a little bit of extra dimension and texture to my scrapbooking layout, which I love to do. And here you can see the 3D embossing folder on the Coastal Cabana. This is some leftovers from the challenge that I'm going to be sharing with you next week. This is two-tone cardstock, so when you run your cardstock through your 3D embossing folder, whatever color is facing down is going to be like the positive of your image. So if you want the lighter side, then you'll want to have that facing down. If you want it to be the darker side, you'll want to turn that over. But this just shows you an example here with the cardstock. This is the positive impression of that die, and this is the negative impression of that die. So 2 for the price of 1. How good is that? So let's get into the technique that I'm going to be sharing with you today. I've got a desk pad here, so we're going to pop that on here so I don't make any mess. Here's one I created earlier. So what I've done is I've cut down some white willow cardstock 4 by 6 inches because this was in my flip flap, and the flip flaps are only 4 by 6 inches. And what I have done here is, okay, let me bring in these cards. At our team demo day on the weekend, we actually recreated, you might even recognize these cards. I cased these cards. Now, cased stands for copy and share everything. I cased these cards from the images in my online store. And so super fun. This is the stamp and the die from the Framed Violets set. So I have already cut out the die, as you can see here. And I've done that centered inside my white willow cardstock. I can trim that off and now use that on another card. And I'm using this as kind of like, I guess, a template, okay, to create my journal box. So I've already pre-cut that out. I'm not going to demonstrate that today. I've got a tiny little bit of Stamp and Seal on the bottom of that die because I am going to center that inside my 4 by 6 inch white willow cardstock. I have got a blending brush here. I am still using some blending brushes that I had from my time as a maker with Close to My Heart. And I have got some inks here. Now we've got Peaceful Pine, which is one of the coordinating colors. And we've also got the Hydrangea Hue. I hadn't yet invested in the Gorgeous Grape. So I do still have one of my leftover ink pads from my time with Close to My Heart. This is the color comparison. This is a color comparison to Gorgeous Grape. And so, actually, I feel like that is not centered. Let's just put this in the middle here. Okay. I feel like that was not centered. Okay, so I've just stuck that down very slightly. Now, the really cool thing actually by demonstrating these are the new classic Stampin' Pads that Close to My Heart have released in the in colors firstly. And you can obviously see the comparison of those, the patent that was purchased from Close to My Heart. And so the ink pads are, these are, oh my gosh, I was going to say foam, but they're not. They're felt. These ones are felt, okay? So I'm just going to pop my blending brush inside my ink pad there. And I'm just going to tap that off very lightly because I don't want it to be too dark. And all I'm going to do is lightly blend over the top of my little template there. Okay. So you can build your color up using these stamping pads, these ink pads, depending on how dark you want it to be. But I didn't want mine to be too dark. You can see why it's handy to use some of your grid paper here. Okay, so you can go off the edges and you can get a really nice clean look. Look, I pressed a little bit too hard there, but that's okay. We'll just blend it out a little bit. And, you know, if it is darker in one area than the other, it's not that big a deal. Don't get too hung up about it. You can see here I've inked right there. You could actually just stamp another stamp right over the top of that, and it will detract from that a little bit. So this is looking pretty even to me. I might just do a little bit more here. Okay, so I'll pop that lid back on so I don't make a mess there. We'll pop that out of sight. So now when I lift that up, you can see here that I've got a beautiful template where I've been able to use my die to create that space on my journal box. Now what I've done here is I've just got my basic black Stampin' Journaling pen and my T-square ruler, and I've ruled my lines at 1/4 inch. Typically what I will do is I will put my journaling box over the top of my grid paper, and I will start at 1/4 inch line, and then I just keep moving my ruler down at the 1/4 inch lines to rule and make my own journaling box. And then for some stamping fun, I've used this stamp set here from the Framed Violets stamp set and the Peaceful Pine Classic Stampin' Pad. And I have just stamped in the top left and right hand corner of my journaling box, just to bring a little bit of colour in there. And that is the gorgeous journaling box that you can recreate for your scrapbooking layout. It's really important to journal your stories that go with your photos, of course. Now I want to bring these cards in here so you can have a closer look at these. These were the ones that I cased from our website. And just to walk you through here, this is the scallop oval frame, which we've stamped. And then the really cool thing is you can actually run this through your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine by putting the scallop die over the top and then the oval die in the middle, and you're actually going to cut both at the same time. And when we did this, I cut the white willow cardstock down and made sure that that die was centered, because then you can use the remaining of your die that you've got left over on another card front, which is super cool. We have also stamped this floral stamp here. We've used the new basic black hybrid Stampin' Pad. So you can then use your Stampin' Blends or your watercolor pencils. We actually colored our flowers on the inside and the leaves using the new shimmer brushes. So we've got the Hydrangea Hue shimmer brush and the Peaceful Pine shimmer brush. Underneath that, we've used this stamp here to stamp the Peaceful Pine reeds. And then with the die cuts, I love this little floral die cut. This is actually 2 dies. Let's take them out of the carrier sheet for you. When I invest in my dies, I actually transfer them onto magnet sheets because they just make it easier for me. And this is actually 2 dies, which I love. So when we ran this through the cardstock, you're going to actually cut out 2 little flowers at the same time, which is great, saving time. And then we've got a little strip of paper here, and we've stamped Take Care, which is from the Framed Violets stamp set. And then we've embellished with some of the little adhesive backed blooms. So they are super cute. Now, the second card that we did, this oval die cut was actually cut out of the middle of that. Okay, so I then had a base that I could use for my next card. So we've got some designer series paper here cut at 5 by 4 inches. We've used the remainder of the die. We've stamped Happy Birthday to You from the Framed Violet stamp set. This is a cute little embellishment type stamp, and we actually stamped this on top of the designer series paper before mounting this with some Stampin' Dimensionals. So we actually stamped off of this so you can see the ink on the designer series paper as well as on the plain cardstock here. Then we stamped and die cut this flower image here, and we've coloured in the leaves with the Peaceful Pine shimmer brush, and then we've done some more shimmer brushing there using the Hydrangea Hue. We've just mounted that with some standard dimensionals. Before we did that, we also stamped this stamp here using the flowers and the leaves here just to add a little bit of a background stamp. It's not super obvious. It's just very subtle there. Again, embellishing with the little adhesive back blooms, and we've tied a cute little bow here with some white ribbon that I've used. I had that in my stash. So I hope that you have found this week's Technique Tuesday helpful for you, and you have picked up some new tips for both your scrapbooking layouts, creating your own journal boxes there, and of course using your stamps and dies coordinating to make a couple of cards as well. Thank you so much for joining me live today. For those of you that are in my Facebook group, I will upload this video for you to watch later, and I look forward to seeing the patterns, the layouts that you create. You can post them in my Facebook group, Scrapbooking with Sarah Shipton. Have a great day, everyone, and thank you for watching. Bye for now.